This was beyond, peacefully protesting some policy difference in the Middle East. The purposeful gathering of a mob outside of a restaurant simply because it is owned by a Jewish person, well, that's anti-Semitism, plain and simple.
Set aside the unavoidable Kristallnacht resonance when civilians watch Nazis ransack Jewish property.
We charge you with genocide.
What is clear is that the Democratic left's anti-Israel outpourings, many of them unhinged, have become persistent, reflexive, and a growing domestic political problem for the party.
Rape is horrific. Sexual assault is horrific. However, I think we have to be balanced about bringing in the outrages against Palestinians.
Last week, Lois Frankel of Florida quit the Progressive Caucus, while she and Michigan's Debbie Dingell have discussed introducing a House resolution condemning Hamas's use of rape as a weapon.
It is outrageous that some who claim to stand for justice are closing their eyes and their hearts to the victims of Hamas.
Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the San Francisco Democrats. San Francisco Democrats is the memorable phrase Gene Kirkpatrick delivered 6 times in a speech at the 1984 GOP convention. It came more than 15 years after the Democratic Party began its historic internal division over the Vietnam War.
When the San Francisco Democrats treat foreign affairs as an afterthought, as they did, they behave less like a dove or a hawk than like an ostrich, convinced it could shut out the world by hiding its head in the sand.
It was a speech that characterized the Democratic Party as out of touch with American values.
But then they always blame America first.
What matters for the here and now is that in 1968, the Democrats were divided between traditional liberals and an anti-war left that specialized in non-stop public protests.
Some 240 people were jailed within 4 days of demonstrations in a week of nationwide protests, which ended with a giant rally in Washington. Police moved in quickly to carry off the sit-down protesters.
Today, the left berates Genocide Joe.
Genocide Joe needs to halt his actions immediately and realize that he's going to face massive opposition from Democrat voters next election.
During Vietnam, they yelled, "Hey, hey, LBJ, how many kids did you kill today?"
I have concluded that I should not permit the presidency to become involved in the partisan divisions that are developing in this political year.
Today, the Democrats, in part, are running a stop-the-clock strategy to avoid another 1968.
I shall not seek, and I will not accept, the nomination of my party for another term as your president.
Joe Biden can run for president, but he cannot hide, especially not when U.S. Muslim leaders from swing states, including Pennsylvania, Nevada, and Michigan, are holding abandoned Biden rallies.
Sleepy Joe is a murderer, and this is a genocide, this is ethnic cleansing, and the blood is on his hands.
Do you support what Hamas is doing?
Do you support what the KKK did to slaves?
No, I don't.
Just because you share their skin tone, do I have a right to ask you that question?
Protesters now appear at virtually any public Biden appearance.
Excuse me, this is a community tree lighting. We respect your right to free speech. We're just asking, this is not a political event.
Anti-Semitism is the new anti-war, the litmus test of progressive solidarity. Anti-war was arguable. Anti-Semitism, no matter how often euphemized as pro-Palestine, is not.
It really harkens back to a dark time in our history. It evokes memories of Kristallnacht in 1930s Germany.
As in the late 1960s and early 70s, we are again living in disturbed times. Jewish voters have some hard thinking to do about where their partisan interests lie, even as elected Democrats start to push back.
We should have a spirited debate and dialogue, peacefully and respectfully, about what's happening in the Middle East. I don't want to rob anyone of the ability to do that peacefully. But when it crosses a line and becomes blatant anti-Semitism, it's critically important that we all speak up. Everyone, those in elected office and those who are in the community.